On today's episode of Backyard Filmmaking, we're creating this Star Wars hologram effect in Hitfilm Express.
Sir, this battle is getting out of hand quickly. We need your help out on the field. Hurry!
Welcome to Backyard Filmmaking. I'm your host Chris, and on today's episode, we're creating the iconic Star Wars hologram effect. Many other sci-fi films have used a hologram effect, but none of them come close to the notability of the hologram effect from the Star Wars franchise. In this tutorial, once again, you will have to use a green screen in order to complete this effect. Remember, when using a green screen, have good lighting and don't wear green. Without further ado, let's hop into Hitfilm Express and get started. Here we are again, Hitfilm Express. I have a new project open with all of my materials. My backplate and hologram plate are both open in my media panel. As you can see, the hologram plate is recorded on a green screen, which it has to be for this tutorial. As I've stated, when recording on a green screen, remember to have good lighting and don't wear green. Our first step is to create a composite shot by right-clicking on your hologram plate and clicking Make Composite Shot, then OK. As per usual, it's time to shorten your clip to exclude any outtakes or any actions or cuts said by the director. After, it's time to adjust your footage, such as its rotation and scale. Once that's completed, and once you've placed a green screen key onto your footage, it's time to track whatever device your hologram is coming out of. Although you could use the built-in tracker in Hitfilm, I prefer to use a point layer. So I'll create a new point by clicking New Layer, then New Point. If you're not familiar with tracking in Hitfilm, the basic concept is to keyframe the position of your point and move it every few frames or so in order to have it remain on a fixed position. For myself, that was the center of my phone. Although the method I use, which is, like I stated earlier, creating a point layer, may take some time, I personally find it quite effective. The built-in tracker can be a little faulty at times. Once the object has been tracked, parent your hologram plate to the point by opening the drop-down menu to the far right of the name of your footage and clicking the name of your point. Once your footage is parented to the point, you may have to adjust your footage just a bit more so it is more accurately moving along with the point. Although you may not have to, I had to make my footage 3D in order to have it fit better in my scene. An obvious issue that was not addressed earlier was the lack of feet on my hologram. You may have this issue as well, and that's alright, because in Star Wars, the very low area of a hologram is often not very present or obvious. To make this transition smoother, you can use a mask on your hologram footage and invert it, then bump up its feathering a bit. With all of that out of the way, let's discuss what effects to place on your hologram. It took me some time to determine what looked best. As you can see, I've deselected all of the effects in order to show you what each effect is and how it plays into the final product. The first effect I placed on was D-Res. I didn't fool around with its settings too much, besides the hue under the mid-tone section. I then placed a waves effect onto my footage. This effect was a little too extreme. I did lower its amplitude a bit. I also keyframed the amplitude in order to give the hologram a little more moving distortion. I was pretty satisfied with the distortion and basic glitching on the hologram, so I dropped a color temperature effect in order to add a blue tint to the hologram. I then added a hue colorize effect and made the hologram even more blue. The next effect I added was a glow effect with a very low intensity. The final effect I added was actually an audio effect titled Telephone to get rid of the mostly clean audio of my original clip. I also want to create that blue glow that is quite prominent towards the bottom of holograms, so I created a new blue plane and made a mask for it. I fooled around with its expansion and feather until I was satisfied. I also activated its path and made the mask grow as the hologram was brought into the shot. Finally, I staggered the hologram footage just a bit towards the beginning to make it flicker in. Once you've completed all of those steps, and maybe added a few sound effects here and there, the effect is completed.
Sir, this battle is getting out of hand quickly. We need your help out on the field. Hurry!
And that's it. Personally, I think this tutorial is one of the more difficult ones that we've attempted to tackle. It really brings a lot of different editing skills together into one effect. Either way, I hope this tutorial was fun and helpful. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Backyard Filmmaking. Don't be afraid to hit that like button or even subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, tell us in the comments below, and thanks for watching.